A US federal judge has refused to halt an immigration enforcement surge in Minnesota. State officials, including State Attorney General Keith Ellison, filed a lawsuit last month, arguing the Department of Homeland Security was violating constitutional protections. The federal government has defended its immigration operation, declaring it has been hindered by state laws. US Attorney General Pam Bondi has praised the ruling, calling it a huge legal win for the Justice Department. And what should we be watching out for over the coming days? Is it political fallout? Is it some policy response? Could there be escalation?
Well, unfortunately, again, both is a possibility. I think we are seeing the policy response in Washington. The funding for the Department of Homeland Security has partially been held up by Democrats in the Senate, seeking to put more controls over immigration and customs enforcement. That's leading to a very brief government shutdown right now, but I think over the next 2 weeks, we'll see how serious the administration is in its willingness to negotiate to come up with appropriate controls on ICE in this new immigration role that it's playing. I think the risk, of course, is that there will be another horrible situation, as we've seen twice already in Minneapolis, where someone who's involved in monitoring ICE is killed by ICE. And were that to happen, particularly if it follows the sort of model of the last two cases, I think we'll see even more public outrage at the administration and at ICE.
Do you think you have a feeling for how much public opinion on ICE has shifted in the wake of those two incidents?
No, I mean, I haven't seen polling specifically about those two incidents, but I think we've seen these nationwide protests, which are small in number so far, but they're much broader in inclusion than they were, a month or two ago. So I think we're seeing more and more people becoming aware of the situation. If they know one thing about immigration enforcement, it's about the killing of Renee Good, for example, and that is motivating people. Initially to get involved in some of these protests, but probably more importantly down the road to think about how that's going to affect their vote in the 2026 midterms in November. And there is an opportunity for those who seek more moderate immigration enforcement to vote for Democrats and to give Democrats control of at least one house of Congress. Were that to happen, that would severely restrict the ability of ICE to run roughshod over American cities as they have been for the last few months.
And what are you seeing in terms of tensions between federal immigration enforcement and local governments?
Well, I think each side is using the powers that it has. Local governments, going back to the Bush administration, have chosen not to cooperate with the federal government in certain kinds of immigration enforcement, leaving to the federal government immigration enforcement. So you've seen local governments saying, we're not going to help in this process. Certainly, in the first year of the second Trump administration, we've seen the massive expansion of ICE, the hiring of all kinds of new people, probably without a lot of training at this stage, to occupy, that might be too strong a word, but to fill certain American cities, Washington, Los Angeles, now Minneapolis, and to alienate local communities while going after daily quotas of undocumented immigrants. So each side has gone to the extremes rather than to look for compromise that would allow ICE to do what the American people would like, which is to deport undocumented immigrants who have outstanding orders of deportation and have committed crimes. That's a small number. That's not the millions that President Trump has promised, but it is the group, the subset of undocumented immigrants that the American people think ICE should be focusing its energies on.
And Michael, I also want to speak with you. Of course, we've seen this nationwide unrest in America over the weekend and protests against ICE, of course, even spilling into Milan ahead of the Winter Olympics. How do you see this kind of settling down? Will it settle down?
Well, you'd have to ask President Donald Trump about that. Now, last week I spoke about the Minnesota governor saying that the killing of the intensive care nurse from the Veterans Affairs Hospital, Preddy, could be an inflection point. He said it will be an inflection point in America. 1 week later, that's starting to seem prescient because, immigration control or border security rates well with everyone here in America. The execution of these ICE raids and these roundups and moving from LA to Portland to Minneapolis, that most Americans, 2/3 of America, including MAGA voters, are against the way that these operations are being executed and conducted. So we've seen the chief of the Border Patrol who was running the Minneapolis operation has been replaced by the border czar himself. We've seen President Trump walk back his rhetoric on the nature of these operations. We've seen now that the Department of Justice has launched a civil rights investigation into the killing of that American nurse a week ago. So this may be the beginning of an inflection point. They may have to start rolling back the nature of these operations. No one's going to shift on securing America's borders, but maybe the tenor of these masked troops or masked men in the street storming houses without a search warrant or anything else may be about to turn. Who knows?